So look, welcome to everybody to this meeting of the West of England Joint Committee today. I'm Dan Norris, of the Combined Authority, and we also have Kevin Guy from Bath and North East Somerset Council to my left, Toby Savage to my left too, and also Marvin Rees from Bristol City Council. Toby is from South Gloucestershire Council, I should have said. And we have Councillor Don Davis. Welcome, Don. Don, of course, is the leader of North Somerset Council. And we also have Richard Bonner here today, who's the chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership and a non-voting member of the Joint Committee. Before we move on to the main agenda items, I would just like to mention that some members of the public are joining this meeting today to present their statements. Just to note, please, that all the statements received have been circulated and read by committee members and are also available to view on our website. Item 6, items from the public. There's up to half an hour for this item. That starts off with questions. 29 questions were submitted for this meeting. And as usual, details have been circulated and written answers have been sent to the questioners. And these are published on the website along with the agenda papers. And then statements are also items from the public, of course, and we've received a whopping 69 statements today, the vast majority on one item. We have made arrangements for some members of the public here today, and welcome to everybody, to join this meeting to present their statements where they have requested to do so. Up to 3 minutes per statement will be permitted today, and I'd be grateful if the individuals making statements could please summarise their points so that we, as we've read all the statements which are published on our website, and you will hear someone call out just before the 3 minutes are up with about 30 seconds to go, and my experience is it often makes people a bit surprised, so I don't want to surprise anyone. We'll a voice reminding you of the time limit. Okay, so if I can call the speakers in turn. Rob Galpin for Thornbury Town and District Residents Association, reference Thornbury High Street. Welcome, Rob. Please do make your statement.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I've distributed a copy of an email we sent at 2 o'clock this morning, which was in response to the statements and questions to which we received copies of them at 7 o'clock yesterday evening. The mayors and leaders will have seen this. Essentially, we ask that Thornbury High Street be removed from today's agenda and put back at a later date. Allow discussions for Thornbury High Street at today's meetings, but delay taking a vote until a later meeting, once members have had a chance to digest and ramifications of, as you've heard, the numerous statements and questions. Delay discussion until such time as SGC have responded in full to our freedom of information questions, which are not due till the end of May, although they should have come in by Christmas. Or allow an increase to the 30 minutes allowed at the meeting, that we can cross-reference statements and questions. Thank you. After that, I'd just like to go into our statement. So is there any response to that, or do I just carry through?
Please carry on, Rob.
Thank you. Right, this is a statement from Thornbury residents. If there is time later, I'd like to do my own statement, but I gather from Ian that may not be possible. We request that South Gloucester Council put their current proposals for Thornbury High Street to one side, at least until June 22, when SGC claim they will eventually respond to the many questions in our freedom of information requests, some 8 months after they were first raised. This will allow time to conduct a full, fair, respectful consultation with the public. It will also enable time for plans to be prepared that are relevant to Thornbury, its users and businesses. Would it not be best to assess the problems, come up with some potential solutions, test these with the community, and then agree together on a suitable way to progress? Consultation. These are definitions from Collins English Dictionary. You ask for their opinion and advice about what you should do. Talk and exchange ideas and opinions in order to find out some information. Shamefully, SGC prefers definition appears to be to impose one's will upon.
30 seconds, please.
Right. Fortunately, you've got the rest of the comments in there, so I shall just go to the end. We understand that WECA members may be reluctant to withhold support to fellow councillors in their quest for funding. However, SGC do not deserve support from any quarter until such time that they carry out a full, fair and respectful consultation with residents of Thornbury, the outlying villages that rely upon the High Street, and of course the businesses in the High Street. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob, for that. Appreciate that. Is it Gil or Jill Gilroy at Thornbury High Street? Sorry, how do you say your name, sir? Gil. Hi, thank you, Gil. Please, would you speak?
Thank you. I've lived in Thornbury for 40 years, and in all of that time, the High Street has been the beating heart and the soul of our community in Thornbury, which has now been brutally ripped apart. We, the residents of Thornbury, believe South Gloss Council have not carried out a full, fair and respectful consultation or impact study on the changes to Thornbury High Street, on economic, traffic management or environmental impact. It is therefore a bewilderment to Thornbury residents why South Gloss Council is so persistent in going ahead with this scheme when 90% of residents have rejected the High Street changes. The changes have only served to reduce retail footfall and income to our local shops, following the application of COVID emergency measures, which are now to be made permanent. It has evolved into a street that is more dangerous now to pedestrians than it ever was before. Why have the revised version of the council's vision and their future plans based on this have not been put to the public for full and unbiased consultation and comment prior to the undertaking of any permanent works? How are South Gloss able to justify their claims for the scheme, which has already been rejected by a majority of Thornbury residents, including 6 of the 9 groups contacted who opposed the changes? South Gloss Council have been unable to produce substantiated answers to 2 Freedom of Information requests submitted by Thornbury and District Residents Association, which has been available to the council already carried out the following necessary impact assessments via information obtained prior to and after the application of emergency measures in the town centre on economic, traffic management, environmental and health. The current diversionary route on the narrow road of Rock Street has resulted in regular traffic congestion, including gridlock during rush hours. Additionally, this route has caused substantial pollution, shifting the combined airborne traffic pollution into one route, resulting in a number of health issues for residents living there. For the first time ever, respiratory issues for a number of residents living along that Rock Street route are now being recorded. Pollution, not experienced before the changes to the High Street, is now so great that they are now, those residents, unable to open windows and have purchased air purifiers, and sitting outside in their gardens is now not an option. All of this because South Gloss Council has not carried out a full, fair and respectful consultation or impact study on the changes to Thornbury High Street. Thank you. I hope that was in time.
Perfect, Gil. Thank you very much. Heard that beautifully. Thank you. Is John Reddles here, please? John, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you. South Gloucestershire Council's report to Cabinet on the 7th of June 2021 was heavily reliant upon the report produced by massaging the figures from a biased public survey to justify closing Thornbury High Street. What is more damning is that the council did not undertake any movement survey of traffic, pedestrians and cycles in Thornbury town centre until the 15th and 17th of July 2021, so that the decision by Cabinet 1 month earlier to go for permanent changes was based on a complete lack of up-to-date information and was therefore misinformed and terminally flawed. The movement survey in the outline business plan is also meaningless, since it only reveals figures obtained in 2 days in a summer month and cannot be compared to any pre-COVID survey figures nor any winter month figures. For this reason, the statistical base of the Council's outlined business plan is far too narrow and is untenable. There are also glaring errors in that survey and the derived statistics and traffic modelling, such as not counting pedestrian movements within the High Street, not counting pedestrian movements to and from Castle Court car park, predicating a traffic model based on buses in Rock Street stopping only for 30 seconds, and not counting the number of cyclists who actually stopped in the High Street to do shopping rather than using it as a shortcut. The entire scheme to make changes to Thornbury High Street was therefore a rushed job in a compressed time frame, not based on common sense comparisons of summer and winter, of pre and post COVID, and not based on longer term auditing so as to eliminate statistical aberrations caused by, for example, reliance on figures obtained on only 2 days in the same week. For this reason, South Gloucestershire Council needs to go back to the drawing board on all counts. Start with viable proposals backed by current information. Consult with the public fully and in the right way, and develop a plan which meets both the requirements of the high street traders and the support of the town's residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, John. Appreciate that. Is Malcolm Best here, please? Malcolm's also speaking about Thornbury High Street. Thank you, Malcolm.
I'm reassured that you have copies of my statement in front of you. I'm not going to read it verbatim because it contains quite a bit of detail and references to the business plan. My statement relates to serious errors and miscalculations that I've identified in the economic appraisal. The economic appraisal makes claim that £3.7 million of benefit value can be accrued derived from physical activity, essentially increased cycling and walking. A further combined £2.1 million of benefit value is accrued and derived from economic efficiency, essentially reduced traffic congestion. A total of £5.9 million, which is just over 90% of the supposed benefit value. But there are serious flaws in these calculations. To start with, the most overriding biggest flaw is the base case, as how it's defined in the business plan. Interim scheme currently in situ. This is ridiculous. This is like saying you create a problem, let it fester for 18 months, and then claim credit for solving it. Ridiculous. The project started in June 2020. It's already been running for 18 months and £700,000 has been spent on it. So it cannot be concluded to be the base case. The economic assessment includes the propensity to cycle tool, and has been used to calculate and predict cycle traffic in and around the town. But this tool specifically says it is intended to be used to evaluate increased cycle user potential on an origin to destination basis, journey to work commuting basis. For origin and destination journeys, work in the super lower area. Depending on the policy environment and infrastructure support that has been provided to encourage travel along those journeys. Looking at some of the reference detail in the report, like the Cycle City Ambition report, it all relates to urban city journeys, where 4 kilometres of segregated cycle lane have been provided, 7 kilometres of aggregated superhighway, 16 kilometres canal towpath. It is
30 seconds, please.
It is preposterous to believe that 200 metres of cycle lane on Thornbury High Street is going to encourage anyone to move and cycle into the town. I've obviously run out of time, but the pedestrian calculation for physical health benefit is also totally flawed, and the predicted efficiency for car movements and congestion is, as I said, it's based on a problem that's been created by this project and therefore cannot be included in the benefit calculation. The value for money statement now is very poor by your classification. It's between 0 and 1. I seriously advise you to look at my report and review the economic savings and benefits you've concluded. This report is not fit for purpose. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who was hoping to speak who hasn't spoken yet?
So this is my own one as a resident. The outline business case has been through 10 drafts, and yet it's vague, not even vaguely fit for purpose. According to the document history, either Atkins or the council have originated, checked, reviewed and authorised the outline business case on each occasion. So in theory, it's been subject to close scrutiny on 40 occasions. How come the outline business case is so littered with errors? Anyone with even a casual acquaintance with Thornbury and fair practice would have picked up many of these errors. It's unbelievable that such a shoddy document has firstly been produced and secondly deemed suitable as a basis to apply for funding. There are 3 periods that could have been used, as my colleague said: pre-pandemic, pandemic 20 to 21 and 24 onwards. The business case is based upon B and C, whereas it should be based on A and C, pre-pandemic and living with COVID. The writers of the report compounded their situation with unsuitable statistics, references and models. Through a combination of arrogance and creative use of erroneous information, the business case was produced with wildly inaccurate and misleading figures. 700,000 has been spent already, with a further 4 million to go. If only a fraction of that sum was spent to refurbish the high street, it would leave £3 to £4 million to provide safe walk-in and cycling routes from the fringes of Thornbury into the town centre. But these seem to be forgotten, although they are really central to the fact. Metro mayors consistently indicated funds would only be released if the council could show full, fair and respectful consultation. The SDC have recently and abruptly changed the route to apply for funding. Is this an admission they realise that consultations to date are not full, fair and respectful? It's difficult to come to any other conclusion. SDC thought the community would appreciate their intervention at the start of the pandemic, supposedly to reduce the spread of COVID, but with the ulterior motive of making pedestrianisation, road closure and traffic diversion permanent. Toby Savage eventually admitted that their proposals were divisive. As time goes by, opposition to the problems has grown. The public has experienced at first hand the problems caused by the temporary measures and understands the underhand way in which the council have acted throughout. This has brought the community together rather than being divisive. The Residents' Association has recently conducted research with the high street businesses to find out if and when the council approached them regarding the viability of their businesses. It appears that they were not approached either before introduction to pedestrianisation, road closure and traffic diversion, or subsequently. In conclusion, the council should withdraw their bid for funding. The high street should revert to the situation as it was in 2019. The council should draw up new proposals for Thornbury based upon a full, fair and respectful consultation. Only then should a bid for funding be considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. Now, thank you to everyone who has submitted a statement today. All the comments have been noted, and where they relate to agenda items will be taken into account by the committee today. I have received just today, not long ago in fact, a letter addressed to me from Rob Galpin, and it asked me a few things, Rob, so I need to try and answer those. You'll appreciate I've only just seen your letter, so I'm having to work this out as I go along a bit. So firstly, one of the things you asked was that I remove the item from the agenda on Thornbury High Street. I'm afraid I don't have a vote, but if any of the other 4 leaders who are present wish to move this and it's seconded and have them vote, then that is possible, but I can't do that for you, and you have asked me because your letter is addressed to me, so the leaders here will be listening to that. And similarly, you asked if I could postpone the vote, and I'm afraid it's the same situation. I don't have a vote on this committee, so on this item, and so therefore I don't have it within my power. But any of the leaders listening could propose something and second something to allow what you're requesting. So I think everybody's had the letter from Rob, yeah? So everyone knows what we're talking about. So they've had a chance to look at it. I don't know if people want to just have a quick chat for a minute and decide, because I'm just sort of throwing this on everybody, and it's a bit confusing and difficult. Marvin, you're looking quizzical, maybe. Maybe I'm misreading that. Basically, it's not in my hands, so it's in the leaders' hands, and it's entirely down to them what they want to do, whether they want to go along with your requests by proposing a motion to do so, and then seconding it, and then discussing it, and then voting on it. So is there anybody who wants to move, second, or anything else? Okay, and then recommendation F, to approve the outline business case for Thornbury High Street and allocate £4.577 million for the delivery of the scheme from the EDF, pending ongoing discussions about investment fund headroom, and where there is urgency to delegate the approval of the full business case to the Combined Authority Chief Executive in consultation with the West of England Chief Executive. And this is a simple majority vote of those members present and excludes me as Metro Mayor. So if anybody wants to speak on this before we make the vote. Toby?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'd like to just firstly start by thanking the speakers who have taken the trouble to travel from Thornbury to join us today and to present the comments that you have to us. It is, I recognise, and I think it's it's very clear that this is a controversial issue within the community of Thornbury, a community that I was born, brought up in, educated in and around, and specifically the High Street, where my parents had a business in the High Street for many a year. So I approached this issue with with those personal views and experiences in mind. And I recognise, as I said, the controversial nature of the scheme and how there are strong views held on both sides, and we have seen and heard a number of the comments that are concerned and opposed to those changes, and I think within the written statements there are some comments in favour, and I think it's fair to say that. I receive a great many comments that are in favour of the scheme, but they don't wish to put themselves forward in a public forum, because I think ultimately what we are trying to do is to help Thornbury High Street to overcome the challenges that face all of our high streets. Thornbury is not immune to those big national changes, whether it's the shift to online shopping, and people needing more from their local high streets. Various comments were made by a mixture of Mr. Galpin, Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Best, and I'll try and deal with some of those, the themes. So if I start on the consultation side of things, we have consulted at various different stages over the course of this scheme, and as a result the scheme has changed from what was originally put in, but I do recognise that there are concerns, significant concerns from residents who have spoken to us today about those consultation processes, and I absolutely recognise that, as with any difficult project, as with any controversial project that any of us are doing, there are always going to be lessons to learn for the future around that, and I'm certainly committed to making sure that we do learn from this process, because we are now, and indeed I know that colleagues in other authorities in the West of England as well are having similar conversations with each of their respective market towns and high streets around how do we address those structural challenges that face all of our high streets. On some of the specific issues that have been talked about, so there's obviously been comments made around that freedom of information requests have been made and have not been responded to. The advice that I've received from officers, and this is where it starts to get quite technical, is that those information requests have been submitted under the environmental information regulations. So that is a separate legal process to the Freedom of Information Act, and that explains the discrepancy within response times. We are responding to those information requests in line with the rules that govern those regulations. Points were made around some of the figures within the outline business case, and I think it's important to stress that this is an outline business case. There is still further work to do to refine those figures and to carry out more work as we continue to develop the scheme. But I think it's important for us today to be able to establish that budget to invest significantly in the future of Thornbury High Street. In the same way that we're investing significantly in other high streets and towns across South Gloucestershire. The most recent one that we've spoken about as a committee has been the work that's going on in Kingswood. One of the points made as part of those comments on the outline business case was just around the impact on cycling when you just look at the cycling facilities within the high street itself. And I think that's absolutely a fair point to make. It's important then for me to say that we have to consider projects like this in the round. And so there is a separate work stream, the A38 transport corridor, that is considering further cycling investment in public transport as well, that connects up to make sure that overall we have an integrated package. I want to thank the work, and I think Dave Redgwell was the one who referenced it. The work of the Thornbury High Street Accessibility and Equality Group. We have taken on board a lot of the comments that they have said in order to how we can improve the scheme to ensure that it is inclusive and recognising the needs of all members of the Thornbury community. Finally, I would just make the point that whilst this is called the Thornbury High Street project, there is investment set out within the outline business case that will benefit Rock Street car park, St Mary's car park. Car parks that contribute to over 600 free car parking spaces within the town centre, ensuring that we are providing options for everyone, regardless of how they wish to travel in and out of the town. So I think, Chair, those are the comments that I'd wish to make on this. I will be proposing the recommendation today, so we continue the work to ensure that Thornbury High Street is able to embrace the significant challenges facing it and all of our high streets in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toby. Is there any other of the leaders who wish to speak on this at the moment? No? Okay, thank you very much. In that case, recommendation F, and that is to approve the outline business case for Thornbury High Street and allocate £4.577 million for the delivery of the scheme from the EDF, pending ongoing discussions about investment fund headroom, and where there is urgency, to delegate the approval of the full business case to the Combined Authority Chief Executive in consultation with the West of England Chief Executives. So this requires a simple majority vote of those members present and voting, although I don't have a vote on this matter. Those in favour, please show. Okay, that's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. That is the end of the meeting. Thank you to everybody who's come quite significant distance in some cases, I know, today. I really appreciate your time and efforts.